Arber Xhekaj is bloodthirsty to start the season, and his recent quote about his goals this year are going to blow you away. We'll be talking about that. Plus, Juraj Slafkovsky deals with a lot of negativity on Twitter and on social media, but he speaks out on how he deals with it and his strategy heading into the season. Plus, Cole Caufield get horribly disrespected in the new NHL video game. So all of that on this episode of Habs Digest. Jesse, let's dive into Cole Caufield here. He's a bit of disrespect here by NHL 24. Someone went in, they have the database up of the overalls of all the players, and someone sorted by winger. And here's where Cole Caufield ranks among right wings, even though he plays a lot of left wing. But, well, whatever, he's a right-handed shot, and you can't expect NHL 24 to actually pay attention to hockey. So we have a look here. Cole Caufield is an 86 overall, below the likes of Kyrou, Tuch, Laine, Toffoli, Terry, DeBrincat, and Meier. Now, to be fair, he does have a 92 acceleration. He has a 91 speed, and we don't see his shot in this screenshot. However, I do believe it was very high in the 90s. But to me, Jesse, I feel like ranking him below a guy like Toffoli and even a guy like DeBrincat, even though I know he has multiple 40-goal seasons, I feel like they're very similar players, and I don't really understand how DeBrincat gets 5 more in the strength department versus Caufield, who's been working out all summer. We saw him get so muscular. I don't know. I just feel like if you're going to put him there, Caufield deserves to at least be in that group of those other 87s.
And Caufield, you know what, though? He's used to being disrespected at this point. He's kind of been sidelined for a big part of his career in a lot of ways, and people just not really thinking of what he's kind of capable of. But yeah, I definitely have a problem with Alex Tuch, being ranked higher. I think, at 27 years old, he had, one pretty good year last year. And other than that, a lot of mediocre seasons, So I definitely feel like Cole Caufield's going to light it up this year, and we'll definitely see him much, much higher. I think, do you think he'll crack the 90 next year for Chell?
I mean, I think it's very possible. It all depends on his performance this year, right? Because it's always hard to predict how good a player is going to play. But if Caufield pots, say, 40, 45 goals, puts up another 30 assists, say he gets 82 points-ish with 40 goals, I don't see how you don't give him a 90. But then again, you see a guy like Patty Laine, who's had those kind of seasons, though he has been on a bit of a decline. It's tough to say. It feels like there's very little consistency. But Jesse, you got to think, at least his strength is going to be bumped up a few points after this season.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Swole Caufield.
That's right, Swole Caufield. The Cole Caufield School of Muscles is in session, but hopefully that translates to some of the teammates too, especially some of the younger guys like Lane Hudson, Sean Farrell, these guys who could use a lesson or two from Cole himself. But let's get into some of the more interesting stuff, and we got to talk more about Slaf. I know we've been talking a lot about Juraj Slafkovsky, but that's because there's a lot to talk about. He has been so impressive this preseason so far, coming off maybe his best ever game, preseason or regular season, in the NHL against Ottawa yesterday, where he scored a goal, had 5 shots, could have had a hat trick. But he was asked how he handles the pressure. And, they basically in this article, they kind of say, yeah, look, I mean, there's been a lot of negativity on X/Twitter about his game. And they say he's avoided as much as he can. But they said, what happens when it gets into your algorithm, comes up on your feed? He just says, yeah, just laugh about it. That was Wednesday morning. And then he said, I felt good today. I felt better this Wednesday than I did last Wednesday, and I'm sure I'm going to feel better next Wednesday than I did today. He won't be jumping to read the praise, but Kirby Dach went in and said, man, I don't even understand how Slafkovsky deals with it. And it's not just him. In this article as well, they say Filip Mesar, one of Slafkovsky's closest friends, right? Both Slovakians, both played together many times. He said, I don't get it. He said everyone else would crack under this pressure, but Juraj just stays calm, laughs, and keeps working on his game. And Jesse, I feel like every single day we're just seeing more and more things that are just pointing towards the fact that Juraj Slafkovsky is doing quite literally everything right to become a star in this league.
And this is the reason why they selected him, is that he's capable of handling this type of pressure, because if you're playing for the Montreal Canadiens, it's kind of like a nation. And Juraj Slafkovsky, he's been representing a nation for a long time in Slovakia. Mesar went on to say, you don't understand how big Juraj is in Slovakia. He's a certified rock star status in Slovakia, right? So he's used to handling this for a really long time. And all he's done through all those years of being the guy in Slovakian hockey is just get better every single year. He's shown that he's able not only to handle pressure, but then get better year in, year out. Guess what we're now seeing with the Montreal Canadiens? That same thing, because even when he had that time off of getting injured from last year, Slafkovsky really used his time in a really great way. He studied a lot of tape. He studied games, from the press box. He wasn't sulking. He talked with Adam Nicholas a lot from player development, talking with Martin St. Louis a lot. He was working on his game. He was doing everything that he could, short of being on that ice in equipment, to improve his game and to become better. And I think we're seeing the small examples of that so far.
Yeah, he's man, he's really phenomenal. Like you said, listening to Adam Nicholas, watching tape, absorbing the games, not sulking at all. Like this guy is so confident, but he also knows that he can be so much better. And a lot of the times with a guy, when you're that big and you have that skill, it's just a matter of putting those two things together. And when you're 19 and still kind of learning about your body, growing, right? Well, phrasing, Josh, but you know what I mean. This dude's a big boy and still 19, and at the NHL level on the NHL ice, being able to use that is a skill in its own. So like being able to have that discourse with Coach Marty and stuff, it's really just amazing. And again, the fact that he's 19, like dealing with all this negativity on social media, like you gotta know that even though he's laughing about it, that kind of stuff takes a toll on your brain, but he's clearly using it as motivation. And yeah, I mean, just super, super excited for this season. But speaking of being excited for this season, one of our favorite players, I think one of everyone's favorite players, Arber Xhekaj, he is always ready to go. In a little pregame interview today, by the way, it was pretty interesting. Logan Mailloux answered a question in French, which I thought was really cool in these pregame interviews. But digress, we'll head back to Arber Xhekaj, and we got a quote from him on if he'll be be a bit smarter picking his battles this season coming off his shoulder injury. Quote, "If the team needs something, then I'm there to step up. If we're getting picked on, we're getting bullied out there, I'm going to step up. It's all about the team for me." And let's not forget, he had a season-ending injury after a fight last year, a shoulder injury that he got in a fight. But he's like, nah, I'm still doing it. Like, that's why I'm here, right? I'm going to score maybe a couple goals in the power play because that happened last year. And I'm going to be physical. I'm going to scare people away. I'm going to take a few penalties. I'm going to be there for my teammates. He had that shoulder surgery, the shoulder injury. After a fight, he's ready to jump back in there. And Jesse, this kind of team-oriented mentality, it's spreading. And Xhekaj might just be the heart and soul of it.
It's so true. And like, you wouldn't even fault him if it was like, yeah, I kind of want to make sure I play a full season, but it's like, no, he has that too. I'm going to be there for my team. You can tell we're a really close knit team, that chemistry, and everything else. So it's really amazing just to see that he's putting the team again ahead of himself, and what's interesting about all of this is that, for as much as we say that, like, fighting really isn't a part of the game anymore. Well, Xhekaj is proving that it is, and make no mistake about it. Like, he's not just a fighter. He's a hockey player. You know what I mean? As Martin St. Louis would like to say, not a guy who knows how to play hockey. He's a hockey player through and through. The type of guys that we like to have around. So that's the thing about him that kind of separates him from other people in this lineup. Like, not only can he have an offensive part to his game, obviously a strong defensive game, but standing up for his teammates is really something that not everybody else on this team can do. And I would say it's really important to just establishing like a winning culture in the future is having those players that can really stand up, for your teammates, understand the gamemanship of the game, kind of looking after them in that type of way, I think is really important. I think Xhekaj really checks all those boxes.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, that is so key for a team heading forward, right? Knowing there's a guy there to defend you. And again, we hate to bring us back to that Jeff Petrie, Sam Montembeault thing, but I mean, there's a reason he was shipped out. There's a reason that guy like Xhekaj is valuable, because people are going to be less likely to go after your guys, especially when you have a bunch of small guys. Someone like a Xhekaj is ready to level you and at least pester you, even if that guy doesn't want to fight. But I think it speaks to him as well, Jesse, that he went from undrafted, like, he has a lot of hockey skill anyway, right? It's not like he's unskilled, but to go from undrafted into the league, like into training camp, then make the NHL roster with like being so physical as well, for having that physicality as part of his game, that fighting aspect to him, not necessarily having the traditional skill set of a defenseman in the league today. Definitely was more of a skill set that you might have seen 20-30 years ago. But to still make the NHL from being an undrafted defenseman, that just speaks to not only his skill, untapped skill that maybe he still has to show, but also his character, and that clearly he has a lot of impact on the guys around him.
You said it completely right, Josh. Arber Xhekaj is a throwback. Mm-hmm. If this guy was playing in the 1970s, he'd be that first pairing, still rocking the stash. He'd be that first pairing defenseman, dropping the gloves every game, but that was so important. But as much, it still plays a factor in today's game. It's still really important, especially when you have young stars and everything else. Can argue the greater the younger stars that you have, the more that you need a player like that, especially in our case where Caufield being a little bit smaller. It's like, yeah, that's, that definitely, raises the case for Xhekaj even more, to have a guy there just to kind of be the sheriff, and make sure the law gets enforced if it needs to.
Yeah, the sheriff himself. I'm excited to see what kind of punishment he lays out this season. Yeah, I mean, he's fun to watch every single second he's on the ice, and you got to think there's going to be a scrap or two from Arber Xhekaj this year, and we'll hopefully be one of the first ones to cover them. But that'll do it for this news edition of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to we're very, very, very close to 8,000 now. So if you're still watching at this point and you haven't hit that button, check. Have you hit it? If not, hit it right now. You won't regret it. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.